The war room was filled with tension. Maps covered the large screen, red zones blinking one after the other. Soldiers in uniforms stood around the table, their faces stiff, their eyes fixed on the digital layout of Sector 7B. General Rahim's voice echoed sharply through the room. We move at dawn. No second chances. Clear the area and neutralize every threat. A young female officer at the far end of the room didn't blink. She stood silently, arms folded behind her back. Her nameplate read LT Zara. She looked directly at the general, her voice calm but firm. Sir, I can't carry out that order. The room went silent. One of the senior colonels frowned. Excuse me? Lieutenant Zara stepped forward. There are families in that village. Children. The data you're relying on is incomplete. General Rahim narrowed his eyes. You're refusing a direct order during active operation. Zara didn't flinch. Yes, sir. Because that strike will kill civilians who have nothing to do with the insurgents. People began murmuring, some glancing at the general, others looking down uncomfortably. General Rahim's voice rose. You better have a damn good reason, Lieutenant. This is not a debate. This is a military directive. Zara took a deep breath. Sir, I grew up near Sector 7B. I know that terrain. I know those people. I've spoken to sources on the ground. There are no confirmed threats inside that village, only fear, rumors, and assumptions. The general slammed his fist on the table. Assumptions. You think I run this army on guesses? Zara stood her ground. No, sir. I think sometimes we forget what it means to protect the innocent. The tension in the room was unbearable. No one dared interrupt. The general leaned closer. Lieutenant Zara, you're suspended from duty until further notice. Report to the holding office. Now? Zara saluted slowly, turned, and walked out of the room. Her heart was pounding, but she didn't let it show. Outside, the hallway felt colder than usual. She walked straight past her comrades, some whispering her name, others avoiding her gaze. No one dared to ask why. They all knew disobeying a direct order could mean court-martial or worse. Zara didn't care about the consequences. All she could think about was the children in that village. The old woman who once carried her on her back when the bombs fell years ago. The same place her father had died trying to protect. Now they wanted her to destroy it. She reached her bunk and locked the door behind her. Her hands trembled slightly. She opened her backpack and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a younger version of herself, sitting on a tall man's shoulders, both smiling. Her father, Major Kamal, a soldier with medals, scars, and a heart that never gave up on his people. He died in a classified operation, they told her, but she had always felt the truth was buried along with him. Zara had joined the military not to become a killer but to find answers, and now she was closer than ever. She opened her laptop and connected to a hidden channel one only she knew about. A few seconds later, a familiar voice crackled through. Zara, you shouldn't be calling me on this line. It was Rayhan, an old friend from her village. Once a school teacher, now living in hiding. I need to know, she said. Are there armed groups inside your village? There was silence for a moment. Then Rayhan replied, no, just fear. Some men with guns passed through weeks ago, but they're long gone. People are scared. They're hiding in basements. The army thinks you're harboring insurgents? We're harboring our children, Zara. We're trying to stay alive. Zara's throat tightened. You need to evacuate. They plan to strike at dawn. Rayhan's voice shook. We can't move that fast. There are sick elders, babies. If the bombs fall, the line crackled. Zara closed her eyes. I'll stop it somehow. She ended the call and turned toward her locker. Inside, taped to the roof of the locker, was a letter she had never shown anyone, a letter her father had left for her before his final mission. She had found it after he died, hidden in the lining of his old military jacket. She took it out and read it again. My dear Zara, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone, but I want you to know the truth. The war isn't always between right and wrong. Sometimes it's between orders and conscience. If ever you're asked to follow a command that burns your soul, don't. Be brave enough to say no, even if it costs you everything. You are stronger than you know. She folded the letter slowly and held it close. Her eyes were wet, but she wouldn't cry. Not yet. That night, she didn't sleep. She watched the clock move past midnight. At 3 a.m., she quietly left her room and walked toward the intelligence division. She had memorized the patrol rotations and slipped through corridors unseen. Her ID still granted her access to Level 2 systems. She logged in and pulled up the satellite feed for Sector 7B. The resolution was sharp. She zoomed in and scanned the images. No visible weapons, no heat signatures indicating armed groups. Just children playing near a broken well, and a group of elders sitting near a fire pit. She quickly saved the footage and attached it to an anonymous report. But before she could hit send, a hand gripped her shoulder hard. She spun around. It was Captain Belial, her former squad leader. What the hell are you doing here, Zara? Looking for the truth, she said calmly. He frowned. You're going to ruin everything. Do you think disobeying the general makes you a hero? I'm not trying to be a hero, she whispered. I'm trying to stop a mistake. He looked torn. You've always been stubborn, just like your father. She stared at him. You knew him? He hesitated. More than you think. Then he stepped back. I didn't see anything. Get out before someone else does. Zara didn't wait. She logged out, slipped the footage onto a drive, and disappeared into the shadows. Just before dawn, she stood on the roof of the base. The sound of helicopters warming up filled the air. Troops assembled below. General Rahim stepped out, his uniform crisp, his face unreadable. Zara walked toward the landing pad. She wasn't supposed to be there, but this wasn't a time for permission. It was a time for truth. She stood still as the general approached her with his security team. I gave you an order, he said coldly. You defied it. And now you break protocol again. Zara held out the drive. There are no enemies in that village, only people trying to survive. Look at the footage, please. The general stared at her, then nodded to one of his aides. The aide plugged the drive into a tablet. Everyone watched in silence as the images appeared clear as day. No guns, no insurgents, only faces filled with fear. The general's jaw tightened. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke slowly. Where did you get this? From your own satellites, she replied. You were going to kill innocent people based on assumptions. Again, his eyes narrowed. You think you know everything. You think I haven't seen what these villagers can become overnight? Maybe some do, she said, but not all, and not these. He stared at her for a long moment. The air was thick. Finally, he turned to his men. Mission on hold. Until we verify everything. Gasps ran through the officers. He turned back to Zara. You just bought yourself a full tribunal hearing. She nodded. I'm ready. He walked away. Without another word, she stood there, alone, watching the helicopters power down. The sun was rising, and somewhere out there, children were waking up to another day because she had said no. But as she turned to leave, she saw a familiar face watching her from the shadows. Captain Bilal, his expression unreadable, and then her phone buzzed silently in her pocket. A message from an unknown number. Only 4 words. You are not wrong. The tribunal room was quiet. The kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful, it felt dangerous. Lieutenant Zara stood alone, her hands behind her back, her uniform crisp but her heart pounding like war drums. 3 officers sat behind the long, wooden table at the front, with General Rahim in the center. His face was unreadable. Colonel Frid sat to his left, known for following rules to the letter. And to the right was Major Heine, one of the few women in high command, known for her sharp questions and sharper eyes. Zara's voice had not been requested yet. First came the evidence. A military officer placed the satellite footage she had recovered on the screen for the room to see. The images played in silence. Children, elders, women cooking over small fires. No guns, no military formations, no insurgents, just scared civilians in a dusty village. General Rahim tapped a pen on the table. This is the footage you retrieved from the intelligence network without authorization. Zara nodded. Yes, sir. You understand that unauthorized access to secure data is a punishable offense? Yes, sir. And yet you did it anyway. Zara raised her chin. To save lives. Yes, sir. Colonel Farid cleared his throat. Let's be clear, Lieutenant. You refused a direct order, broke into a secured facility, accessed confidential military footage, and attempted to stop a mission under the claim of your personal judgment. Why? Zara took a breath. Because I've lived there, because I knew the people, and because the data you were working with was based on outdated intelligence and fear not fact. I knew those people were innocent. Major Heine leaned forward. You could have been wrong. What if there had been armed men hiding underground? What if your actions had allowed a threat to grow stronger? Zara didn't blink. I would have lived with the consequences. But I couldn't live with the guilt of killing innocent people. There was silence again. General Rahim looked at her, his gaze heavy. You realize you've created a precedent. If every soldier decided to disobey orders based on their feelings, Zara interrupted quietly. Not feelings, sir. Facts. I didn't go rogue. I confirmed my suspicion with proof. Colonel Frid's face darkened at her interruption. Lieutenant, you're not in command here. With respect, sir, someone needed to be, she said, her voice trembling but strong. General Rahim raised his hand to stop any reply. Enough. We'll take a short break before deciding disciplinary action. You may wait outside. Zara saluted and turned to leave. As she stepped into the hallway, she saw Captain Bilal standing near the door. He looked at her, then glanced away. They'll never promote you again, he said quietly. She sighed. I didn't ask for promotion. He looked at her again, this time more gently. But you might have just saved 100 lives. That means something. I hope so, she whispered. He hesitated, then added, Your father once told me something. He said the hardest thing about being a soldier wasn't fighting enemies, it was protecting people from your own mistakes. Zara felt tears rise. Behind her eyes, she nodded but didn't speak. The tribunal resumed after 30 minutes. This time the mood was different. Major Heine had a file in her hand. She looked at Zara. Lieutenant, your father was Major Kamal, correct? Yes, ma'am. Did you know that his final mission was also in Sector 7B? Zara blinked. Yes, but the files were classified. I was never told what happened. Major Heine placed a folder on the desk. It's time you knew. He disobeyed orders. Just like you. Zara stepped forward slowly. What? He received intelligence from a local informant, a young teacher named Rihan. The village was marked for a strike, but he delayed it. He risked his life to evacuate the children first. Zara's breath caught, and then, he was ambushed. The strike was cancelled, but he didn't survive. Zara's knees felt weak. Her father hadn't died in vain. He had died protecting the same village she had just stood up for. The same informant, Rahan, was still alive. Major Heine continued. We didn't speak about it publicly. We couldn't reward disobedience, but off the record, he saved lives that day, and so did you. General Rahim didn't speak. He stood up slowly and looked out the window. Then he said, Lieutenant Zara's actions violated protocol, but her intentions were honorable. For now, there will be no Zara's heart skipped a beat. However, he continued, you are suspended from combat duty for 1 month. During this time, you will assist in civilian liaison and intelligence review. Perhaps that is where your instincts are most needed. Zara saluted, her throat tight. Yes, sir. The hearing ended. She walked out of the building, the sun glaring over the base. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe again, but the story didn't end there. Late that night, she received a message from Rihan. They came back. The message read, not soldiers, strangers, armed asking questions. About you. Zara's fingers tightened around the phone. Someone knew she had stopped the strike and they weren't happy. The next morning, she reported to the civilian liaison office. Her new post was dull on paper, reviewing aid requests, transferring reports from local The sun leaders,
rose slowly over the capital. For the first time in many years, it felt like the light wasn't just touching rooftops and streets, it was touching hearts. There were no sirens that morning, no tanks rolling through markets, no loudspeakers, barking orders. There was only quiet, and in that quiet, a deep breath from a nation that had held its breath too long. Zara stood in front of the parliament building, watching the sunrise. Her scarf fluttered gently in the breeze. Behind her, people were cleaning the streets, collecting signs, offering food to one another. It was a new beginning, but it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Layla walked up beside her. They're asking for you inside. The interim council wants your voice before they make announcements. Zara nodded. I'll come, but not as a leader, just as a reminder. Layla smiled. You were never just anything, Zara. You've become a symbol. Inside the Grand Hall, the interim council had gathered ministers, judges, representatives from provinces that had long been ignored. At the center of the room was the speaker's chair, but it remained empty. The head of the council stood. Before we begin today, before we announce any steps or plans or reforms, we have invited the person whose courage lit the fire of truth in this country. Zara Ali, would you speak? Zara walked slowly to the center of the room. All eyes were on her cameras, broadcast her every movement to the millions watching at home. She didn't speak immediately. She took a breath and then looked around the room. I didn't come here to rule. I didn't come here to be thanked. I came because the truth was drowning in silence. And I was tired of being afraid, but this changed this moment. Mine, it's yours. It belongs to every mother who cried alone in the dark. Every father who died asking why. Every child who grew up believing their voice didn't matter. This moment is their justice. She paused. Some in the room wiped tears. I ask you one thing. Do not replace one kind of power with another. Do not become what you just broke. Let this country be led by truth, not fear. She stepped back. There was silence for a few seconds. Then applause rose not loud and wild, but steady and respectful. The council moved forward. New reforms were announced.
No children played
Political
outside.
prisoners
No cooking
would be
smoke
released.
from huts.
Corrupt
Zara
officials
raised
would
her
face open
binoculars.
trials.
Movement
Families of
figures,
victims would be given
armed,
reparations.
speaking to an elder.
And most importantly,
One man raised
the
his hand
military
as
would
if
no
to strike
longer
the old
control
man.
civilian
Zara's
matters.
blood.
Later that
They
afternoon,
moved in slowly,
Zara visited a
positioning
hospital near
themselves
the old
behind a
military
crumbled wall.
prison.
Miriam
Dozens
whispered,
of people were
"Not
being
regular
treated there,
militia.
those who had
These are
survived
trained.
the dark
Look
cells,
at the way they hold
those who had been
formation."
found after
Zara
years of
watched
being
one of them
missing.
pull out
In
a
one room,
photograph.
she saw
It
a
was
man
her.
with sunken
Her
eyes
military
and a
ID
frail
photo.
body.
Clear as
He
day,
looked at her
she
with
whispered,
confusion.
"They're after me."
You're the soldier,
Suddenly,
he whispered.
one of the men looked
I
up
was,
sharply.
she
He
said,
pointed.
sitting
They
beside
had
him,
been spotted.
but I couldn't stay
Fall back.
silent anymore.
Zara ordered
He nodded
It was too
weakly.
late. A
Thank
gunshot rang
you,
through the air.
for
Miriam
helping
went
us
down.
breathe
Zara
again.
dragged her behind a
Outside,
cart.
she met
Blood soaking her
Farah,
uniform.
who had been
The vague
organizing
returned
lists
fire.
of survivors
The villagers
and connecting
ran for
them
cover.
with their
Zara
families.
looked into
We found
Miriam's
Moose's
eyes.
sister.
"Stay with
She
me,
said,
you're okay."
she's alive.
Miriam coughed.
She was in
"Protect
hiding.
them.
He's
Don't
with
worry
her now.
about me."
Zara
But Zara's
smiled.
hands
He
were
deserves
trembling.
that peace.
The
Do
enemy
you?
wasn't just
Farah
coming
asked
for her.
softly.
They were ready to
Zara
burn
didn't
everything
answer,
in their path.
because even now,
And then
the
she
weight on
heard
her
a
shoulders
roar of an
hadn't
engine
lifted.
overhead.
She
A
walked away
military
quietly.
drone.
That
Her
night,
drone
the
dot,
streets
she
were
grabbed
full
the
again,
radio.
not with
"This is
protests,
Lieutenant
but with
Zara.
music.
Sector
People
7B
lit candles,
under immediate
sang
threat.
old songs of
Armed
hope,
rogue
shared
unit
stories of
attacking
courage.
civilians.
Children danced
Request
in
emergency
circles.
air
Men and women
surveillance.
hugged
Silence
strangers
for a
like
moment.
family. And above all that joy was the unspoken truth they had survived. Zara sat on the edge of a rooftop with Layla and Farah. Do you think it'll last?
I'm not waiting for orders.
Layla took a sip of tea. It can if people remember what it cost, Farah added, and if they protect each other. Zara looked up at the stars. Then maybe it was worth it. But in another corner of the city, a small group, a former officer sat in a dark room. They watched the celebrations on a flickering screen. One of them, a man with scars across his jaw, spoke softly. This girl, ... she thinks it's over. Another nodded. We may have lost today, but we built this system for years. It won't vanish overnight. The first man lit a cigarette. Let the people have their joy. When they let their guard down, we'll be waiting. Back on the rooftop, Zara felt something in her chest. A tightness. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Maybe it was something else. But deep inside, she knew freedom was not a moment. It was a fight. A constant one. The next morning, Zara visited her father's grave. She stood there silently, holding a single white flower. I wish you had lived to see this, she said softly. Or maybe it's better you didn't. I still don't understand all of it. What you knew, what you chose. But I understand now why truth matters more than loyalty. She placed the flower on the stone. I forgive you. Behind her, a man approached slowly. It was the former general, the one who had resigned on live broadcast. His face was thinner, his uniform gone, just a simple man now. I was wrong. About you, he said. Zara didn't turn. I don't need your approval, he nodded. I know. I just wanted to say thank you. You did what I couldn't. She finally looked at him. I didn't do it alone. They stood in silence together. Later that day, Zara held a press conference, her final public appearance before stepping away from the spotlight. The media gathered, hoping for a new political announcement. Instead, she said, "My job is done. Now the work belongs to you. All of you. I will not run for office. I will not take power. I will return to my family, my village, and live as a citizen. Because change must live in the hearts of the people, not just in one face." A reporter shouted, "But we need you." Zara replied, "You don't need me, you need each other." She walked off the stage, and that was the last time. She was seen on national television. Years passed. The country did change slowly, not perfectly. Some promises were broken. Some mistakes were repeated. But people remembered. They remembered the files, the speeches. The girl who stood before tanks with nothing but her truth. In schools, children read about her in textbooks, in homes. Mothers told their daughters, "Be brave." Like Zara, and in quiet villages, where the roads were dusty and the nights long. People whispered. She defied protocol but saved a nation. One day, a young girl in a remote town stood up during a school play and wore a simple black scarf. She stood tall and proud and said the same words Zara once had. "I don't come as a leader. I come as a human being." The audience clapped. Zara, sitting quietly at the back with her husband and two children, wiped a tear from her eye. And for the first time in many years, she smiled without pain. Because the fight wasn't just hers anymore. It belonged to everyone. And that was enough.
Until he betrayed us. Zara's eyes burned. "He saved lives. He saved the wrong lives," the man said. "He stopped a mission that would have ended the rebellion. Early for that, we paid the price. And now you make the same mistake." She lifted her gun again. "Stay away from these people." He raised his hand slowly. "I'm not here for them. I'm here for you." A pause. Then he added, "The file." Zara frowned. "What file?" He stepped closer. "The one your father died for. He hid it before he left. It contains names, proof of who funded the early strikes. Black ops, secret missions. They buried it. He didn't. You found it, didn't you?" She stared at him. "I found footage. I found truth." "Exactly," he said, smiling. "And now I need it. Or others will die." She was about to speak when a sharp crack rang out. A sniper's bullet hit the ground between them. Military drones had arrived. The backup team dropped in from above. The armed men scattered. The leader looked at Zara, disappointment in his eyes. "You chose wrong again." Then he vanished into smoke. Zara fell to her knees, gasping, heart racing. The soldiers surrounded her, securing the area. One of them shouted, "Clear. Area secured." Another knelt beside her. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Help the villagers first, and get Miriam to a chopper." The sun was rising over the ruins. Children came out from hiding. Mothers clutched their babies. The village had survived but barely. Rayhan ran toward her. "You're alive," he whispered. She nodded. "But he's still out there." "Who was he?" Rayhan asked. "He said he knew your father." She looked into the sky. "He knew more than that. He was part of whatever took my father down." Rayhan's face turned pale. "Then this isn't over. Not even close," she replied. Later that day, back at base, Zara walked into the intelligence archive room. Kareem was waiting. "They say you disobeyed orders again," he said. She nodded. "But this time, they're not yelling at me." He handed her a sealed envelope. "This arrived for you. No return address." She opened it carefully. Inside was a black and white photo. 3 soldiers, her father, the man from the village, and another face, half hidden. On the back was a message. "He didn't betray us. We betrayed him. Her blood went cold. She looked at Kareem. I need every record on my father's last mission, and I need access to restricted files. Kareem hesitated. That's risky. So is doing nothing, she said. He nodded slowly. Then let's find out why he died. Over the next few hours, they pieced together fragments, old reports, erased documents, discarded files. Zara discovered something that made her chest tighten. Her father had been ordered to execute a civilian, but he refused, because that civilian was a whistleblower. The name on the report, Rihan. Zara dropped the paper. Rihan had been the target. Her father had protected him and died for it, and now she had done the same, without even knowing. Kareem whispered, "You think that's why they came back? To finish the job?" Zara nodded. They failed once. They won't fail again. But neither will I. Just then, the base alarm sounded. Zara and Kareem ran outside. A vehicle had breached the outer gate. Security surrounded it. Zara approached. A soldier handed her a message. Dropped by the gate. No one inside. Just this note. She opened it. Next time you won't see us coming. The file or the village. Choose. Zara crumpled the note. In her hand, fire lit in her chest. She turned to the officers around her. Get me a team. We're going hunting. And just like that, the hunted became the hunter. Zara stood quietly in the war room, her eyes fixed on the blinking dots on the digital map. The enemy had vanished into the mountains. The same men who attacked the village were now ghosts. But ghosts left tracks and she was determined to find them. The general behind her spoke in a calm voice. Lieutenant, you defied orders. Again, you endangered civilians. Why? Zara turned around slowly, meeting his eyes without fear. Because your protocol would have let them die. I don't follow orders that serve silence over justice. The room fell silent. No one spoke. The general looked at her for a long time, then said, You have 72 hours. Find proof that justifies what you've done. If not, you're out. Zara didn't flinch. I'll need full access. Satellite feeds, drone coverage, restricted files. The general raised a brow. Everything, she said firmly. And a field team. The general nodded slowly. You'll get what you need. But if this goes sideways, you're not just out, you're on your own. Zara turned to leave. She didn't need comfort. She needed truth. Kareem met her outside the command center. They gave you 3 days, he asked. That's generous. That's a warning, she replied. Help me, he smiled. Always. Together they went to the tech lab. There they met Layla, a brilliant drone operator with eyes that never missed anything. Zara explained the situation, showed the photo, and told her everything. Layla's face turned serious. I'll dig, but if this goes deep, someone will try to bury it. Zara nodded. Then we dig deeper. Hours passed as they scanned old footage, communications logs, and satellite trails. Layla found something. 3 helicopters left. Base X1 to the night. Your father died. Only 2 came back. 1 was off record. Where did it go? Zara asked. The mountains. Near the old fort where rebels once hid. Zara's heart raced. That's where the enemy had vanished. He's hiding in the same place my father tried to expose. Layla clicked a few more keys, and there's more. But the one who spoke to you, he's not on any military record. But facial recognition matched him to one thing, a deleted unit called Shadowwing. Kareem leaned in. Shadowwing. I thought they were just a rumor. Layla shook her head. Real? Secret missions. No oversight. Trained to remove threats before they become public. Zara whispered. Then my father wasn't killed by rebels, he was silenced by his own. Layla nodded. And now they want you silenced too. Zara stood. We leave tonight. Take only those we trust. She gathered a small team. Rihan, who had proven his loyalty. Defied, who wouldn't let her fight alone. And Layla, who could guide them from the air. They loaded up quietly and flew under radar toward the mountains. The air grew colder as they approached the old fort. It sat high on a cliff, abandoned for years or so it seemed. Their drone caught glimpses of movement to organize to be wildlife. Zara stared at the screen. They're there, waiting. Rihan checked his rifle. What's the plan? Zara looked at him. We go in, get what they're hiding, and get out. If they fight, we fight harder. As night fell, the team hiked silently through rocky trails. The moonlight painted the mountains silver, but danger lurked in every shadow. Halfway up the ridge, they found fresh tracks, boot prints. Layla whispered through the comes 3 guards, 20 meters ahead, moving in a triangle pattern. Zara held up her hand. We split. Rihan, go left, Naveed right. I'll take the middle. Minutes passed in silence. Then, a quiet scuffle. Rihan radioed. 1 down. Quietly Naveed followed. 2 down. Zara smiled. Good. They moved forward and reached the outer wall of the fort. A narrow crevice led inside. They slipped through, weapons ready. Inside, it was darker than night, but their night vision goggles lit the path. Zara pointed to an underground chamber marked on an old map. That's where they're storing the files. As they moved deeper, they found something unexpected. A wall covered in photos, faces of officers, soldiers, and civilians. Some crossed out, some circled. Zara's breath caught. Her father's face was there, so was hers. Rihan whispered. This is a kill list. Zara nodded. And we're on it. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. You should have stayed quiet, Lieutenant. Lights snapped on. They were surrounded. Armed men stepped from the shadows, weapons drawn, and in the middle stood the same man from the village, calm, confident. Zara lifted her weapon. He didn't flinch. Put it down, or your friends die. Defied was breathing hard. Rihan aimed but didn't shoot. The man walked forward. You've come for truth. Fine. I'll give you some. He tossed a folder on the ground. Your father found out what we were doing, missions that weren't approved, actions that could have caused war. He tried to expose us. We gave him a choice. Stay silent or disappear. He chose the hard way. Zara's voice shook. You killed him. The man shook his head. He took his own life. We just gave him the situation. Zara's knees felt weak. You're lying. Read the file, he said, and ask yourself, would you have done any different if your job was to protect the country? Zara opened the folder. Inside were transcripts, photos, and a letter written by her father. It said, if anyone finds this, know that I chose to leave, because I couldn't carry the weight of secrets anymore. Her hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. The man said, he wasn't weak. He was tired. We all are. You think exposing this will fix things? No. It'll only break what's left. Zara stood slowly. Maybe it needs to break, so something better can be built. She turned to her team. Ready? Rihan nodded. Defied gritted his teeth. Always. Layla's voice came through the comms. I have a visual. 2 drones. Overhead, give the signal. Zara raised a flare. The chamber exploded in light. Drones dropped tagged in the chaos. The team attacked. Shots fired. Men shouted. Zara grabbed the folder and ran toward the exit. Outside, she and her team sprinted down the ridge as gunfire echoed behind them. A bullet grazed her shoulder, but she kept moving. They reached the evac point. A chopper arrived, blades roaring. They jumped aboard just as a rocket exploded nearby. The chopper rose fast, shaking. Zara clutched the folder to her chest. Blood dripping from her arm. Inside, no one spoke. They were alive. Barely. Back at base, the general was waiting. He saw the blood, the folder, the haunted look in Zara's eyes. He didn't speak, just nodded. Zara dropped the folder on the table. Everything's in there. And one more thing, Shadow Wing still exists, and they've marked me. The general opened the folder. He read silently, then looked up. You've made enemies, Zara replied. Then I'll fight like my father did. Not for protocol, but for people. The general stood. Go clean up. You've done more in 48 hours than most do in a lifetime. Zara turned away, but paused. Sir? He looked at her. Yes. There's one more file missing. One name I couldn't find. Who's? He asked. The third man in the photo. I want to know who he is. The general's expression changed, almost afraid. Some doors aren't meant to be opened, Lieutenant. She stared him down. Then I'll knock them down. And with that, she walked out, bruised, broken but not beaten. Outside, the night was quiet, too quiet. Then she noticed a shadow across her tent wall, a figure, watching. She reached for her weapon, but it was already gone. The shadow outside her tent didn't move. It stood completely still, like a statue watching her breathe. Zara didn't panic. She stayed calm, slid off the edge of her cot silently, and reached for her second weapon, hidden in her boot. It wasn't there. Her eyes narrowed. Whoever this was knew her well. Too well. Slowly, she reached for her flashlight, flipped it on, versed through the tent flap. There was no one. Just footprints in the dirt leading into the dark. Out toward the edge of the base perimeter, Kareem came running from the mess hall, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Zara, what's wrong? She pointed to the prince. Someone was here, watching. They took my weapon. Kareem scanned the area. You think it was someone from the Shadow Wing? She nodded. They were inside my tent. Kareem? No alarm, no noise. This wasn't a threat. It was a message. He asked, what message? Zara looked toward the night sky. They're not done with me. The next morning, she stood before the general again, her shoulder bandaged, face pale but sharp. He didn't ask why she looked like she hadn't slept. He already knew. He slid a file across the table. You asked for the third man in the photo. He was scrubbed from all official documents, but your father kept a note. Zara opened the file. There was a name, Colonel Musarraf. He trained your father, then disappeared during a covert operation in Sector 13, presumed dead. Zara's lips parted slowly. But he's not dead, is he? The general's silence was answer enough. She leaned forward. Why are you hiding him? Because some truths break more than they fix, he said quietly. Musa was once the most trusted man in intelligence, but something changed in him. He started asking questions. He vanished before anyone could stop him. If he's alive, he's not the same man your father knew. Zara stood, the file still in her hand. Then I need to find him. The general sighed. If you go down this road, you won't just be fighting rebels or ghosts. You'll be fighting people in this very uniform. She looked him in the eyes. Then I'll fight smarter. Later. That day, Layla pulled Zara aside. I ran a trace on a communication ping. Someone from the mountain fort sent out a scrambled message right after we left. I decrypted part of it. Zara listened carefully. Layla continued. It was a location code hidden in a retired satellite signal. Guess what it leads to? Where? Zara asked. Layla tapped a map. Sector 13. The place Musa was last seen. Zara's heart beat faster. She had to go. But this time, no helicopters, no team. A quiet entrance. She chose Kareem to go with her. Rihan insisted too. And though Zara wanted to say no, she knew she might need him. Layla would monitor from base. They took a civilian truck and changed into local clothes. Their gear was hidden under grain sacks and empty boxes. The road was long and rough, and Sector 13 was off the grid. Once a refugee camp, now abandoned and swallowed by desert winds and silence as they reached the outer fence of the dead zone. A local shepherd walked by. Zara stopped him gently. Is there anyone still living here? The old man squinted at her. No one sane. Only shadows. And sometimes, voices at night, screaming. He walked on without waiting for payment. Kareem shivered. This place? Feels cursed. Rihan smirked. Perfect spot for a ghost. They left the truck behind and walked deeper into the ruins. Broken walls, burned buildings, shattered toys in the sand, memories of people who were either relocated or forgotten. Zara moved carefully, eyes scanning every detail. Suddenly, Kareem pointed. Look, that built-in camera, a small blinking red light above the door. Zara walked toward it, hands raised. We're not here to fight. I'm looking for Musa. Raf. The camera tilted down, then up, then turned off. Silence again. Zara stepped inside. The room was empty, but just as she turned to leave, a panel in the wall slid open. A voice called out, Lieutenant Zara Shah. Her blood froze. She walked through the narrow passage, her friends close behind. At the end of the hallway stood a man, tall, lean, with a thick gray beard and dark eyes full of exhaustion. I knew you'd come eventually, he said. You look like your father. Zara stared at him. You're Musa Raf. He nodded. The last time I saw your father, he handed me a USB drive and said, if anything happens to me, find my daughter. I've been waiting for you for 10 years. Zara's voice broke. Why didn't you come forward? Musa looked down. Because I saw what they did to your father, what they tried to do to me, and I learned the truth. Once you know the whole system is broken, there's no fixing it from the inside. You either run or get crushed. She shook her head. No, there has to be another way. Musa walked to a safe hidden in the floor. He opened it and took out an old drive. This has everything. Names, operations, documents your father collected, and a list of every person involved in Shadow Wing's rise. He paused, including the general. Zara's breath caught. My general. He wasn't always bad, Musa said, but somewhere along the way, he changed sides. Your father trusted him once too. Zara's hands trembled as she took the drive. We need to get this out. To the public, to the military court. Musa grabbed her arm. Once you release this, your life will never be the same. You'll be hunted, even by your own. She pulled her hand back. I'm not afraid of being hunted. I'm afraid of staying silent. Musa looked at her proudly. Your father would have said the same thing. As they turned to leave, gunfire erupted outside. A flashbang hit the wall and exploded. The building shook. Rihan pulled Zara back. We're under attack. Kareem dragged Musa behind a table as bullets shredded the doorway. Zara yelled into her radio, Layla, we're pinned down in Sector 13. Who found us? Layla's voice was panicked. I don't know. I think someone traced the communication. You need to run. Zara turned to Musa. Is there another exit? He pointed to a hatch through the waterline tunnel. They slipped into the narrow, stinking tunnel as bullets rained down above. Rihan covered the exit with a grenade before sliding in last. They crawled for half a kilometer before reaching a storm drain opening outside the camp. When they emerged, bruised and muddy, they could still hear choppers circling overhead. Zara held the drive close. We can't go back to base. They'll be watching. Kareem pulled out a phone. I know a safe house. My uncle owns a mechanic shop in the city. No questions asked. They climbed into an old van and drove through the night, past checkpoints, past fear, and into a quiet part of the capital. The mechanic, a tall man with kind eyes, opened his gates without a word. Zara collapsed on a wooden bench. We have the truth, but they're already trying to erase it. Musa looked at her. Then you must go public. Broadcast it before they find you again. Layla joined them via satellite link. I can help. There's an old military satellite still active. If we send the files through it, we can upload everything to a protected whistleblower platform. Rihan smiled. They'll try to shut it down. Layla replied. They can try. But once the truth is out, it spreads like fire. Zara sat quietly, staring at the screen. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Some battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with words, with proof, with courage. She stood up. Then let's set the fire. As they prepared the upload, Rihan stood guard outside. Kareem watched the gate. Musa coached Layla on the decryption codes. Zara uploaded file after file, names, faces, maps, dates, cover-ups. Then the signal cut. Zara shouted, Layla, silence. The screen went black. She turned to Musa. They shut it down. Before he could answer, the screen lit up again. But this time, it wasn't Laila. It was the general. His face was calm, cold, and he was staring right at her. "Lieutenant Shah," he said, "you've gone too far." The screen cut out again, and, outside, a car pulled up. Zara grabbed her rifle, because this time, the enemy was already at the door. The moment the general's face disappeared from the screen, everything in the room fell silent. Not a breath, not a whisper. Only the ticking of the old wall clock in the corner of the mechanic's shop. Then, a car engine rumbled outside. Zara tightened her grip on her rifle. Karim ducked behind the metal shelves near the entrance. Rihan raised his pistol. Musa stood by the backup exit with a steel rod in hand. They all knew it wasn't just any visitor. It was the kind of silence that came before a storm. The door creaked slowly. One figure stepped in. Zara aimed fast. "Stop right there." The man raised his hands. "Don't shoot. I'm from Layla." He tossed a small transmitter onto the floor. A holographic image projected upward. Layla's face appeared. "Zara, listen, I'm sorry. They traced the satellite just as we began uploading. I shut it down to protect you. This man, Major Hanafis, from an internal security branch. Trusted he's been helping me track Shadow Wing quietly for months." Zara lowered her weapon slightly, but her voice was still sharp. "Why didn't you tell me before?" Layla's image flickered. "Because I couldn't even trust myself. But now after what you found, there's no turning back." She leaned forward on the projection. "Zara, the general isn't working alone. He's part of something deeper. Shadow Wing is only a surface. Underneath, there's a network. Across several military branches, intelligence, weapons development, even foreign assets. Musa's files started a storm. There are people waking up, and others hunting you down. You need to disappear for now." Zara looked around. "Disappear? We don't have that kind of time." Layla nodded. "Then we buy it." The projection ended. Major Hanef stepped forward. "There's a smuggler route through the eastern hills. Quiet, dangerous. But if you make it, I can help you reach a private secure facility outside the grid." Zara clenched her fists. "We can't just run, we need to finish what we started." Musa stepped beside her. "We will, but first we survive. Or the truth dies with us." They packed quickly. No more electronics. Only paper files, USB backups, and survival gear. As dawn broke, they slipped out the back in an old delivery van with fake plates. Karim drove, eyes fixed, nerves high. Rihan scanned every mirror. Zara sat beside Musa holding her father's dog tags. The city faded behind them. Ahead, the eastern hills stretched like the bones of giants, harsh, dry, and empty. The smuggler route was barely a road, more like a memory of one. Dust rose in thick clouds, choking their view. Twice, they had to stop and move rocks with their bare hands. At a narrow pass, a flat tire nearly stopped them completely. While Karim changed it, Rihan whispered, "You think Layla's still safe?" Zara nodded slowly. "She's smart, but she's in danger now, just like us." By nightfall, they reached the first checkpoint, not official, rebel territory. Armed men appeared from behind boulders. One aimed a rifle at them, turned back. Hanif stepped out, holding a small coin. The rebel looked at it, then him, then at Zara. "You brought her." Hanif nodded. "She carries the fire." The rebel stared at Zara. "You're the one. From the court hearing, the one who spoke out?" She didn't speak. He lowered his weapon. "Go fast." As they moved on, Karim whispered, "Word is spreading. Even in places we didn't expect." 3 hours later, deep into the mountains, they reached a small cave system. Inside, a secure lab powered by solar panels and old tech, hidden by time and fear. Major Hanif handed Zara a secure terminal. This place belonged to a former whistleblower. He built it in case the system ever turned fully corrupt. No signal gets in or out without a key sequence. You'll be safe here. For now. Musa handed her a bag. This has the clean data files, names, locations, the connection between the general and foreign accounts. Zara opened one file and froze. The account list included people she knew, high-ranking officers, some even awarded for national honor. Her chest tightened. "How deep does this go?" Musa answered, "Farther than you'd want to believe." As they began organizing the files, Zara found something strange, an encrypted section her father had marked for Zara only. It required her birth date and her mother's maiden name. She entered the code. A video opened. Her father appeared on screen, older, tired, but determined. "Zara, if you're watching this, I'm probably gone, and I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you everything, but I had to protect you. The truth is, you weren't just a witness to this story, you were always part of it. Your mother died not in an accident but in an operation gone wrong, because she discovered something they were hiding. She was trying to expose them. I buried that truth. I shouldn't have, but I was afraid they'd come after you." Zara's throat burned. She remembered her mother's soft hands, her gentle smile, the sudden car crash that had never made sense. Her hands trembled as the video ended. Musa sat beside her. "I knew your mother. She was brave. They both were. And now, it's your turn." Zara looked up. "No, it's our turn." The next morning, Layla reconnected through a private relay. "They've issued an alert. You're officially listed as a traitor." Rayhan laughed bitterly. "So now we're all criminals?" Zara replied, "No, we're the only ones not pretending." Layla added. There's a national military conference in 5 days. Every major figure will be there, including the general. If we upload the truth then, in real time, while they're all watching, it will be unstoppable. Zara smiled slowly. Then that's our battlefield. For the next 3 days, they worked day and night. Kareem and Rayhan set up portable signal amplifiers. Hanif pulled in contacts from secure lines. Musa coached Zara on what files mattered most. Layla built a timed release system. They planned not just an upload, but a message, a final speech, a moment that couldn't be ignored. On the eve of the conference, they moved again. This time, disguised as a repair crew. Inside their truck, all the evidence, the satellite equipment, and Zara's final speech recorded but timed for live release. They drove into the city, past guards, checkpoints, eyes that didn't know what to look for. At the outer ring of the conference center, Zara pulled off her cap and looked at her team. We started this with truth. We finish it with courage. They split into teams. Kareem and Hanif went to the rooftop. Rayhan guarded the perimeter. Musa and Zara entered through a side service tunnel. Inside, everything glowed with medals, brass buttons, and polished boots. The general sat at the front, calm and smiling. He didn't know yet. Layla's voice came through Zara's earpiece. Uplink ready. 10 seconds. Zara stepped into the hallway. A guard spotted her. Hey, you can't. She raised her hands. I'm not here to run. Cameras turned. Faces turned. The hall fell quiet. The general stood. Lieutenant Zara Shah, you are under arrest for treason. Zara's voice cut through the silence. No, General. I'm here to reveal yours. The giant screen behind the stage flickered. Layla's upload went live. First came the documents bank, transfers, coded orders, intercepted messages. Then came the footage, Musa's hidden recordings, Zara's testimony, and finally, her father's video message. The room erupted into chaos. Officers shouted. Some ran for exits. Others stood frozen. The general walked toward Zara slowly. You think truth wins in this room, he whispered. Zara whispered back. Not in this room, but out there, ... It already has. Suddenly, the general lunged at her. A gunshot rang out. Zara stumbled. Rayhan burst through the side door. Gun smoking. The general hit the floor, bleeding from his shoulder. Guards stormed in, not to arrest Zara but to shield her across the country. The video spread like wildfire. Officers turned in their badges. People took to the streets. Zara sat on the stage, blood on her sleeve, but eyes full of fire, and for the first time in years, the truth didn't have to hide. But outside the conference, in the dark corners of the military web, unseen eyes watched her name rise, and one voice whispered, she thinks it's over. But this was only the first move. The rain hadn't stopped since that morning. It drummed hard on the rooftop of the safe house where Zara sat alone, staring out the broken window. Her arm was bandaged from the shot, her uniform stained and torn, but the ache wasn't just from her injury, it was from something deeper. She had won. The general had been arrested. The truth was out. The people had taken to the streets. But still something wasn't right. Downstairs, Musa argued quietly with Layla over a static-filled satellite connection. Rayhan paced near the entrance. Weapon, always ready. Kareem was fixing a broken generator in the back. Everything looked calm, but it wasn't. They all felt it, like a storm brewing just beyond the trees. Zara stood slowly, walked to the map pinned on the wall. Red dots marked where the military had pulled out. Green circles showed cities where public protests turned into people's assemblies. But there was a new mark one Layla had just added last night. A black X near the southern border. Shadow. Wings still active. Still dangerous. She turned sharply when Musa entered. They're not finished, she said. No, he replied. They just went underground. He handed her a file. Layla decoded more transmissions. Shadow Wing still has commanders in place. Units moving quietly. Civilians disappearing. Zara opened the folder, and her face tightened. Why didn't this come out with the last upload? Musa looked down. Because I didn't trust everyone on our side. Some in the resistance still follow orders from shadows. Zara stepped back, so we exposed one part of the rot, ... But the roots are still there. Musa nodded. And they're getting ready to fight back. That night, they gathered in the safe house basement. Layla's voice crackled through the old speaker. We have a situation. I've tracked encrypted movements. Shadow Wing is regrouping. They've taken over a military compound outside Miran City. And they're planning something. We don't know what, but it's big. Rayhan clenched his fists. Let's go there. End it. But Layla added, it's not that simple. That compound is protected by former special ops loyal to the general. Highly trained, you go in without planning, you won't come out. Zara's eyes narrowed. Then we plan. We hit them where it hurts. The next day they headed out. 2 civilian cars. No weapons showing. They took the long road, avoided highways on the way. They picked up Ion, a former drone operator who had once trained under Zara. He looked older now, rougher. I heard your speech, he said. Made me believe again. They reached the outskirts of Miran at night. The compound sat on a hill, surrounded by electric fencing and armed watchtowers. Drones hovered above like silent vultures. Ion studied the perimeter. These drones are old models. I can jam their signal for 3 minutes. That's your window. Inside a small abandoned house nearby, Zara laid out the plan. We don't go in with bullets. We go in with the truth. Layla has intercepted a full database inside their central server. It holds names still embedded agents, secret orders, black site locations. If we extract that and broadcast it, we burn their entire web. Kareem asked, and if they catch us? Zara answered, then we make sure someone else presses upload. At 2 a.m., the operation began. Ion jammed the drones. Musa cut through the back fence. Zara, Rehan, and Kareem slipped in, dressed as maintenance workers. They avoided the guards, moved through the dark alleys between barracks. Finally, they reached the server room. A thick metal door stood in front of them. Code, Rehan whispered. Zara stepped forward and typed her father's old clearance code. Click. The door opened. Inside. Rows of humming machines glowed green. Rehan inserted the drive. 2 minutes, he said. But then alarms, flashing red lights. Footsteps, voices yelling. They're here. Search the west wing. Rehan looked at Zara. Keep it going. I'll slow them down. Before she could stop him, he was gone, running back through the corridor, drawing attention. Gunfire echoed. Screams followed. Kareem gritted his teeth. He won't make it. Zara didn't reply. She stared at the screen upload. 87%, 91%, 94%. Then dash complete. She grabbed the drive. We have it. Let's go. They raced out through the south exit. Kareem hotwired a parked jeep as they sped off. Rehan's voice crackled through the walkie. Did it. Upload. Zara pressed the button. Yes, we got it. He laughed softly. Good. That's all that matters. The line went silent. Zara held it tightly, not blinking. The next morning, the world woke to a second wave of truth. More documents, more names, more proof. Entire units disbanded overnight. Protests turned into action. Some military leaders resigned, some were arrested, but Shadow Wing didn't disappear. Not yet. In a hidden room deep in the mountains, 2 men watched the news feed. One said, she's more dangerous than her father ever was. The other replied, then we do what we should have done years ago. We erase her. Far away, in the safe house, Zara stood before a group of young recruits, men and women, who had come from different places, wearing no uniforms, but holding steady eyes. This isn't just about exposing the truth anymore, she said, it's about protecting it. Every system has cracks. Ours is no different. But now we are the line. Musa stepped beside her. Shadow Wing will strike again, but this time they'll find us waiting. Zara looked up at the sky. The clouds had cleared, but she knew the real storm was still ahead, and someone out there was already moving against her. Zara hadn't slept all night. Even though the world now knew the truth, even though thousands were rising up across the country, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen, something worse than before. The old regime had fallen, but not all of its pieces. Some were hiding, some were regrouping, and one of them had her name written down, underlined in red. She sat on the rooftop of the safe house watching the sunrise. Layla joined her quietly, holding 2 mugs of hot tea. Zara took one and smiled faintly. We did something big, Layla said, but it doesn't feel over. Zara nodded, because it's not. We killed the snake's head, but its tail is still moving. Downstairs, Musa was going over new intel. A flash drive had been mailed anonymously to one of the resistance outposts. It showed satellite images of a desert facility, deep in the forbidden zone. No road signs, no public records, no official name, just coordinates and guards, armed men, helicopters, underground tunnels. What is this place? Kareem asked. Musa looked grim. We think it's where they're taking the dissidents now. The ones that didn't come back? It's off-grid. No law, no light, no noise. We call it the Black Nest. Zara stared at the screen. Her hands clenched slowly. Then that's where we go next. Layla was uneasy. This isn't like the last missions. This is suicide. You go in there, and they erase you. No names, no graves. Zara didn't blink. Then we go in louder than they expect. We don't sneak, we confront. A plan was drawn, not just an infiltration. This time a full broadcast. They would break into the Black Nest's control room, link to the satellite uplink, and show the world live what was happening inside. No edits, no filters. Real people, real horror, real truth. They packed light. Zara, Musa, Layla, Aya, Kareem and 2 new recruits. Farah, a tech genius who once worked for the regime but defected after seeing what they did to her brother. And Imran, a young medic who had lost his entire village in an unauthorized strike. They drove through the night, reached the last civilian checkpoint before the forbidden zone. The desert stretched ahead, flat, wide, endless, nothing but sand and sky. As they approached the facility, they went dark. No lights, no signals. Farah hacked into the fence control system, disabling the alarm for 60 seconds. They slipped in under the barbed wire. Inside, the compound was bigger than they imagined. Towers, barracks, underground bunkers, blacked-out vehicles, surveillance drones circling above. The guards moved in pairs, quiet, precise. They split into 2 teams. Zara, Farah, and Karim would enter the main building and reach the control room. Musa, Layla, Ayan, and Imran would cause a diversion near the storage yard, set off a gas explosion to draw the guards away. Everything started well. Farah bypassed the door security using a code she once saw her old boss type. They slipped inside. The halls were cold and empty. Cameras moved slowly, scanning, but they avoided them. Then they found the cells, rows and rows of metal doors. Numbers, not names. No voices, just silence. Zara opened one. Inside sat a woman. Her eyes were open, but her spirit was gone. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her wrist had a barcode tattooed on it. Karim whispered, "They're not prisoners. They're erased." Farah's eyes welled up. "My brother. He was taken here. I thought he died, but maybe ... They didn't have time to search," Zara said. "Once we upload, the world will come for them. We must show this first." They reached the control room, a wall of screens, thousands of hours of footage, people being tortured, brainwashed, tested on. Zara's hands shook as she plugged in the drive. This ... This is everything they swore never existed. Meanwhile, Musa's team planted the gas lines near the fuel yard. Ayan counted down 3.2.1. BOOMA fireball lit. The night alarm screamed. Guards rushed out. Chaos. Inside. Farah tapped the uplink console. Signal found, linking now. But then metal boots echoed behind them. Guards. Karim stood at the door. Ready. Keep going. Gunshots rang. Zara flinched. She looked back. Karim was down, blood on his chest. He smiled once, then fell. Farah shouted, "We're live. We're live now." Zara ran to the camera. She looked straight into it. "My name is Zara Saeed. I was once a soldier. Then I became their target. What you see now is what they've hidden for years. The Black Nest is real, and so is your right to know." The guards broke through. Zara was grabbed, but she didn't stop speaking. "You can silence me, but not the truth. The truth is already out." Suddenly, lights flickered. "Backup power," failed a voice on the intercom shouted. "They've uploaded it. Shut down everything." Farah smiled, even as they dragged her away. Too late. From cities to villages, people watched their phones, their TVs, their laptops. The footage played on loop. Every cell, every scream, every face. Outrage exploded. That night, mass protests turned into blockades. International organizations called for investigation. Embassies issued warnings. Soldiers began refusing orders. But back in the compound, Zara and her team were thrown into a dark cell. No light, no food, no names. She sat in the corner, bruised, bleeding, but not broken. Then a voice whispered in the dark. "I saw your father once," it said. He said the same words before they silenced him. Zara leaned forward. "Who are you?" "I was one of them," the voice replied. "Now, I'm not." "Can you get us out?" she asked. A pause. "Yes, but it will cost you." "What, your silence?" Zara shook her head slowly in the dark. "I'd rather die loud." The voice didn't speak again. Far away, in the capital, a new figure watched Zara's broadcast. On a private screen, he was old, powerful, and still in the shadows. He turned to his assistant. "She is dangerous. Just like her father, maybe worse." The assistant asked, "Should we eliminate her?" The man smiled coldly. "No, not yet. Let her rise. The higher she climbs, the harder she fall." In the darkness of the Black Nest, Zara lay awake. She heard footsteps approaching, keys turning, a door creaking open. A guard entered. "You come with me?" She stood, wrists shackled, and walked into the unknown. The air smelled of blood and secrets, but she didn't blink, because the world was watching now, and they couldn't unsee what she had shown them. Zara's boots echoed in the hallway as she was led deeper into the underground facility. The guard walking behind her said nothing. His steps were heavy, controlled, almost mechanical. She had no idea where they were taking her. The air grew colder, the walls became narrower, and then, suddenly, they stopped. A door slid open with a low hiss. Inside was a small room. One chair, one camera, one screen. The guard pushed her in and closed the door behind her. She sat slowly. Then the screen in front of her flickered to life. An old man appeared. He wore no uniform. His face was calm, like someone used to power, not afraid to use it. His eyes studied her quietly before he spoke. "Zara Saeed, you've caused quite a storm." She didn't reply. He continued. "Millions are marching. The world wants answers, and they think you're a hero. But you and I know, you're just a problem." She leaned forward. "A problem you created." He smiled faintly. "You're brave, I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't win wars. Strategy does. And you just exposed our last leverage." She stared at the camera. "So what now? You kill me live on screen, torture me again. Or will you finally admit the truth?" The screen went black. A new face appeared. Her face, a video from her military file. Zara younger, fresh-faced, standing in uniform. A voice narrated, "Lieutenant Zara Saeed, age 21, tactical operations specialist, decorated loyal, until she went rogue." Then images of her past doctored, fabricated. her voice spliced to make her sound like she was plotting treason. Scenes of buildings exploding, edited to suggest she caused them. Photos of her holding weapons she never used. She jumped from her chair. That's fake. The door opened again. A man in a suit walked in holding a folder. You're going to confess, he said calmly, or we release this version of the truth, and believe me, people will believe it. She shook her head. People aren't that blind anymore. He leaned close, but they are scared, and scared people believe whatever makes them feel safe, even lies. She stood silent. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Then she whispered, my team. Where are they? The man didn't answer, just left the room. Elsewhere in the compound, Musa was chained to a wall. His face was swollen from beatings. Layla's voice echoed from another cell. They're trying to break her, Musa. They want her to give up. Musa coughed blood, but still smiled. They picked the wrong girl. In another wing, Farah was being interrogated. Her hands were tied behind her back. A screen showed her brother. He's still alive, the officer said. We'll let him go. If you say she forced you into this, Farah closed her eyes. Her voice cracked. She didn't force me. She woke me up. They tried to turn them all, every one of them, promised freedom, forgiveness, safety, but one by one they refused, because truth had already changed them. Back in the city, protests turned into sit-ins. Soldiers started to remove their badges. A young cadet stood in front of his superior and laid down his rifle. I won't follow orders that smell of blood, he said, and then walked away. News anchors debated, is Zara Saeed a traitor or a savior? But most people had already chosen. Her name was painted on walls. Her picture on shirts, songs, were written. Children drew her face in schools. Inside the compound, Zara was dragged into a larger room. Cameras surrounded her. She realized they were going to record a forced confession. A fake broadcast. You will read this, the officer said, handing her a script. You will apologize, admit you lied, and ask people to return to order. She looked down at the paper. Every word made her sick. Then she looked into the camera lens. Red light, blinking they were live. She took a deep breath. My name is Zara Said, she said clearly, and this is not my voice. The officer looked confused. I was told to read lies, to confess crimes I didn't commit, but I won't, because the world deserves the truth, and even if you shut this down, they will still hear me. One of the guards rushed forward to stop her, but she kicked the chair into his legs and kept speaking. They think pain can silence people, but pain has taught me to speak louder. They think fear can control us, but fear brought us together, and now, they're afraid of us. The signal was cut, but it was too late. The few seconds that went live were already being shared. People watched her resist, her words spreading like fire. The general stormed into the control room, who gave her a live mic. Someone stammered. It was rerouted by a system glitch. We didn't authorize shut everything down. Burn the hard drives. No more traces. Zara was thrown back into her cell. Her face was bleeding, but her spirit burned like a flame. That night, something unexpected happened. An explosion rocked the facility. The power cut off completely. Alarms screamed, and someone opened the door to her cell. A tall man in a military jacket. He held a keycard. Didn't say who he was. Just said, follow me now. She hesitated. Are you with them? I was, he said. But I saw your video, and my daughter cried. She said you sound like the truth. Zara stepped out slowly. Where's my team? I'll take you. They rushed through dark halls. The guards were confused. Fire suppression systems had failed. Gas leaked from the northern wing. Smoke filled the upper floors. A full-scale breach. Musa, Layla, Farah, and the others were already gathered in the utility tunnel. The mysterious man led them there, unlocked the hatch, and handed Zara a flash drive. What is this? She asked. Everything they erased, including what happened to your father. Zara's breath caught. You knew him? The man nodded. Once he trained me, then he vanished into the smoke. The team crawled through the tunnel. For hours they climbed, crawled, and ran until they reached the edge of the desert. Waiting there was a truck abandoned but fueled. They didn't stop to think, they just drove. When they finally reached the border town, they were covered in dirt, bruised, dehydrated but alive. Farah plugged the flash drive into a laptop. A folder popped up, Project Ghost file. Inside names of all the erased videos of secret trials, transcripts of black site operations, orders signed by the top generals, and ... a file labeled Saeed. Zara clicked it. Her father's voice filled the room. A video recording, his final message before being executed. If you're watching this, ... it means I failed. But maybe you won't. They will call you a traitor, a liar, a danger. But remember, truth is dangerous only to those who fear it. Keep going, my daughter. Speak. Even if your voice shakes. Zara broke down. She cried like she hadn't in years. But then she stood. We're not running anymore, she said. We're taking this to the capital. Layla stepped forward. They'll expect us, Musa added. And they'll try to stop us. Zara nodded. Then we'll show them something they don't expect. Zara looked at the flash drive and whispered, all of it. The entire truth. Live. The team began preparing for their final mission. But in the capital, The enemy was already watching, and they weren't planning to let her speak again. The road to the capital was long, dusty, and full of danger. Zara and her team drove through empty highways, avoiding checkpoints and surveillance drones. They barely spoke, each of them lost in thought. Farah held the flash drive close like it was more precious than gold. It held the truth, the whole truth, and it had to reach the people. At night, they stopped in an abandoned farmhouse. Musa stood guard while the others rested. Zara sat by the window, her eyes scanning the darkness. She kept hearing her father's voice. Truth is dangerous only to those who fear it. She whispered it to herself over and over. Layla came and sat beside her. You okay? Zara nodded. No, but I will be. Layla offered her some water. The others are tired, but they're with you, no matter what happens next. Zara looked outside again. We're close, just 2 more days, but they'll be waiting. Layla hesitated. Do you think people will believe it, even with all the proof? Zara sighed. I don't know, but I know they deserve the chance to decide. The next morning, they continued moving. They switched vehicles twice to avoid being tracked. At one stop, a mechanic recognized Zara. He didn't call the authorities. He saluted her quietly and handed her a bag of food. For the real soldiers, he whispered. By the time they reached the hills outside the capital, they could see the military helicopters flying overhead. The city was tense. Curfews had been enforced. Soldiers patrolled every corner. Billboards flashed emergency warnings. The public was told to stay inside. Terror alert. Rogue agents approaching. Do not engage. Report any sightings. But even with all that fear, people were talking. Whispers of Zara's escape were spreading. Some said she had died. Others said she was coming back. And in secret chat rooms, her video from the compound, the one they tried to erase, was still being shared. Millions had seen it. The fire was growing. Zara and her team took shelter in the underground metro tunnels. From there, they planned the next step. We need to get into the National Broadcast Tower, Zara said. That's where we'll stream. The files live. Musa looked at the map. It's inside a military zone now. High security, Farah added, but the control panel is on the lower level. If we can reach it, we can upload everything. Layla pointed to the ventilation system. We crawl in from the east tunnel, bypass the surface checkpoints, and get to the generator room. From there, I can unlock the broadcast node. Zara nodded. It has to be tonight, before they find us. As night fell, the team suited up. No uniforms, just black clothes, gloves, masks, quiet steps, steady hearts. The plan was dangerous. If one thing went wrong, they'd be caught or killed. But no one hesitated. They moved through the tunnels like shadows. At the end of a long shaft, they reached the underground grate. Layla worked fast, disabling the sensors. Then one by one, they crawled in. The tunnel was tight and smelled of rust and oil. Rats scattered. Pipes hissed. They reached the sub-basement of the tower. The hum of machines filled the air. Guards walked the halls above, but below, it was mostly empty. Musa and Layla moved toward the generator room. Farah and Zara headed to the control panel. Suddenly, a door opened. A flashlight beam swept across the room. They froze. A soldier stepped in. Young, nervous, he looked right at Zara. Recognition filled his eyes. He raised his rifle. Zara didn't move. Don't shoot, she whispered. The soldier hesitated. His hands trembled. You saw the video? She said quietly. Didn't you? He nodded slowly. I'm not your enemy, she added. But they are lying to you. He lowered the gun, then turned around and walked out without saying a word. Farah let out a shaky breath. That was close. Zara nodded. Too close. They reached the control panel. Layla joined them moments later, sweaty but smiling. Systems unlocked. You've got 5 minutes before the auto-lock resets. Zara plugged in the flash drive. The screen lit up. A message flashed. Do you want to begin public broadcast? She clicked yes. The files started uploading. A loading bar appeared. 3%, 9%, 18%. In another part of the tower, alarms suddenly went off. Someone had spotted them. Security forces scrambled. Boots slammed the floors. Doors were locked. The tower was going into emergency lockdown. Zara stared at the loading screen. 43%. Come on, she whispered. Gunfire echoed. Musa radioed in. They're coming your way. Hold them off. Farah grabbed a wrench. We're not leaving without finishing this. 60%. 71%. Smoke started leaking from the vents. They were pumping gas into the lower floors. Zara took off her jacket and stuffed it under the door to block the fumes. Her eyes watered. Layla was coughing, but the upload continued. 84%, 92%. Then the power cut off. Darkness. The screen went black. Zara screamed. No. But then, a moment later, the emergency generator kicked in. The screen blinked back to life. 0.98%, 99% to 100%. Upload complete. Broadcast active. Across the country, screens lit up. Phones buzzed. TVs froze. The lies were replaced with truth. People watched as the files revealed everything. Secret prisons. Orders signed in blood. Videos of confessions. Tortured out of innocence. Proof that Zara's father had been executed without trial. that hundreds of soldiers had been erased from records for asking questions that the people saw it all. The general was watching too. In his high tower, he slammed the desk, shut it down, blocked the signal, but the techs shook their heads. It's everywhere. It's on every network, every backup, every mirror site. We can't stop it. In the streets, crowds began to form. People didn't wait for permission. They took to the roads, holding candles, chanting her name, Sada, Sada, Sada. Inside the broadcast tower, soldiers finally broke through. Zara and her team were surrounded. The commander raised his weapon. Zara stood tall. Go ahead, she said. Shoot me. But it's too late now. The people know. The commander didn't shoot. Instead, he stepped back, lowered his weapon and saluted. Then one by one, his men followed. Zara looked around in shock. Farah whispered, I think we just won. But Zara shook her head. No, we just started something. What happens next is up to the people. She stepped outside. Thousands had gathered around the tower. They cheered when they saw her. Some cried, others held signs. Truth wins. Zara the brave. No more lies. From somewhere in the crowd, a little girl climbed onto a man's shoulders and waved. Zara recognized her. It was the soldier's daughter, the one who had cried after watching her video. Zara smiled and waved back. Then she looked up at the sky. Helicopters circled but didn't shoot. They were watching too. Layla asked, what now? Zara took a deep breath. Now we build again. With truth, with justice, with voices that were silenced. As she stepped back into the tower, her face appeared again on every screen, and this time, no one could silence her. The morning after the broadcast was quiet, but it was the kind of silence that came before a storm. In every home, office, and shop across the country, people were still watching the footage Zara had released. No one could speak. Some cried. Some sat frozen, their hands covering their mouths. Some were angry, some were terrified. But one thing was clear, nothing would be the same again. Inside the broadcast tower, Zara sat on the cold floor, her back against the wall, her head resting. On her knees, her body was aching, but her heart was heavier. She had done what she set out to do. The truth was out. But now, a bigger question stood before her. What happens next? Farah walked over and handed her a cup of warm tea. You didn't sleep, she said. Zara shook her head. Can't. Too much in my mind. Layla was on the rooftop watching the movements of the soldiers down below. No one's tried to arrest us yet, she said through the radio. But the military's gathering. It's getting tense. Zara got up slowly. I want to speak to the people again. One last time. Farah frowned. They've seen the truth. Zara, you don't owe anyone anything. Zara looked at her gently. That's exactly why I must speak. Not because I owe them, but because I believe in them. Layla came down from the roof. Then do it. We'll keep the tower safe until you finish. An hour later, Zara stood once more in front of the same camera that had streamed the files the night before. Her face looked tired, bruised, but her voice was steady. She began, to every citizen watching, I don't come to you today as a soldier, or a daughter of a general. I come as a human being. Like you, I have been lied to. Like you, I have suffered loss, and like you, I want peace, truth, and dignity. What you saw last night was not a mistake. It was not an attack. It was justice. It was truth. And I know that truth is heavy, but it is also the first step toward healing. Outside the tower, loudspeakers echoed her words. Crowds listened in silence. Some stood with tears in their eyes. Some held hands. Others carried photographs of missing family members, fathers, mothers, brothers lost to the same system Zara had exposed. She continued, I do not ask you to follow me. I ask you to follow your heart. If we let fear guide us, we will fall back into silence. But if we walk forward with courage, we can change everything. As her message ended, people began to cheer. Louder this time, braver. They filled the streets, moving peacefully toward government buildings, demanding answers, demanding change. But the silence inside the military compound was different. The General Zara's father's old friend sat alone in the control room, watching her broadcast. His hands trembled slightly. His once proud eyes looked tired. The files had exposed everything: his role, his orders, his betrayal. His aide came in. Sir, what should we do? The general didn't answer immediately. He stared at the screen. As Zara stood among the crowd, hugging an old woman who had lost her son to a secret operation, she's winning hearts, the aide said. The soldiers, they're beginning to question everything. The general finally spoke. She was never the enemy. He stood up, removed his decorated jacket, and dropped it on the floor. Get me the president. Back at the tower, Zara's team monitored the city's response. Musa stood by the main door, radio pressed to his ear. We're hearing reports. In the south, soldiers are laying down weapons. Joining the people, Farah smiled for the first time in days. They're listening. Suddenly, the screen lit up again. It was an emergency address, but not from Zara. It was the general. He looked straight into the camera, his voice firm but different, less arrogant. More human. He began. To the people of this nation, I have led with power, not truth. I have ordered silence instead of justice. I was wrong. The files Zara released are real, and the people we lost because of my orders. I can never bring them back. But I can do one thing now: step down. Effective immediately, I resigned from my position. The city erupted. Some cheered, some wept, and others stood still in disbelief. Farah looked at Zara, eyes wide. He actually did it. Zara closed her eyes, a tear rolling down her cheek. Then it's finally begun. But just as hope bloomed, a new voice broke through the radios. This is Colonel Remen, the message said. The general is no longer in command, but I am, and I will not let chaos win. Zara turned toward the control panel. Who is he? Musa answered. Hardliner. Loyal to the old ways. If the general is stepping down, Remen will try to seize power. He won't go down without a fight. The hope in the air began to shake. The people had seen the truth. The old leader had stepped down, but now, a darker force was rising from the shadows. Colonel Remen made his first move within hours. He deployed tanks around the parliament building and placed the capital under martial law. Soldiers were ordered to arrest all known collaborators, including Zara. Farah watched the news feed in horror. It's a coup. He's hijacking the fall of the system to create his own rule. Zara stood up. Then we can't stop now. We started this. We'll finish it. Layla nodded. What do you want to do? Zara answered without hesitation. We marched to Parliament, with the people. Outside, thousands had gathered near the tower. When Zara walked out, the sea of people parted. She didn't wear her uniform. She wore a plain black scarf, a symbol of mourning for those lost. She raised her hand and said, if they want to silence us, let them try. But we walked together, and the crowd moved with her. By afternoon, the roads leading to Parliament were packed. Old and young, rich and poor, women and men. Some held flowers, others held signs that said, this is our country too. But as they neared the gates, tanks blocked the path. Soldiers aimed their guns. Colonel Remen appeared on a large screen nearby, his face cold, his eyes sharp. This is your final warning, he said. Go home or face the consequences. Zara stepped forward. Then look me in the eyes when you give the order. She walked alone to the front of the crowd and stood, just 10 feet from the tanks. She said nothing, just stood there still. Strong. Unmoving. Remen watched from his control room, fists clenched. Shoot her, he growled. But no one moved. He shouted. Again, I gave you an order. Still, nothing. The soldier at the front, a young woman, lowered her weapon. She took a step back. Then another soldier. Followed. Then another. Until the entire line dropped their weapons. The crowd burst into cheers. Colonel Remen slammed his fist on the table. Send the second wave. But it was too late. The people had already reached the gates. They opened on their own. Zara walked through first. Inside, Parliament members had gathered, some frightened, some inspired. The speaker rose. Zara Ali, he said, you have no official rank. She nodded. That's true. But you have the voice of the people, he added. And today, that means everything. She looked at them and spoke clearly. We don't want revenge. We want rebuilding. We want peace. But it must be real. Not controlled by fear or by men like Remen. Outside, Remen's forces were abandoning him. He was arrested before sunset. And for the first time in years, the country stood still, not in fear, but in awe. Zara walked back outside, and the people lifted her onto their shoulders. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just looked up at the sky and whispered, we're not done yet. The sun rose slowly over the capital. For the first time in many years, it felt like the light wasn't just touching rooftops and streets, it was touching hearts. There were no sirens that morning, no tanks rolling through markets, no loudspeakers barking orders. There was only quiet, and in that quiet, a deep breath from a nation that had held its breath too long. Zara stood in front of the Parliament building, watching the sunrise. Her scarf fluttered gently in the breeze. Behind her, people were cleaning the streets, collecting signs, offering food to one another. It was a new beginning, but it didn't feel like victory. Not yet. Layla walked up beside her. They're asking for you inside. The interim council wants your voice before they make announcements. Zara nodded. I'll come. But not as a leader, just as a reminder. Layla smiled. You were never just anything, Zara. You've become a symbol. Inside the Grand Hall, the interim council had gathered ministers, judges, representatives from provinces that had long been ignored. At the center of the room was the speaker's chair, but it remained empty. The head of the council stood. Before we begin today, before we announce any steps or plans or reforms, we have invited the person whose courage lit the fire of truth in this country. Zara Ali, would you speak? Zara walked slowly to the center of the room. All eyes were on her. Cameras broadcast her every movement to the millions watching at home. She didn't speak immediately. She took a breath and then looked around the room. I didn't come here to rule. I didn't come here to be thanked. I came because the truth was drowning in silence. And I was tired of being afraid. But this change, this moment, mine, it's yours. It belongs to every mother who cried alone in the dark, every father who died asking why, every child who grew up believing their voice didn't matter. This moment is their justice. She paused. Some in the room wiped tears. I ask you one thing. Do not replace one kind of power with another. Do not become what you just broke. Let this country be led by truth, not fear. She stepped back. There was silence for a few seconds. Then applause rose, not loud and wild, but steady and respectful. The council moved forward. New reforms were announced. Political prisoners would be released. Corrupt officials would face open trials. Families of victims would be given reparations. And most importantly, the military would no longer control civilian matters. Later that afternoon, Zara visited a hospital near the old military prison. Dozens of people were being treated there, those who had survived the dark cells, those who had been found after years of being missing. In one room, she saw a man with sunken eyes and a frail body. He looked at her with confusion. "You're the soldier," he whispered. "I was," she said, sitting beside him, "but I couldn't stay silent anymore." He nodded weakly. "Thank you, for helping us breathe again." Outside, she met Farah, who had been organizing lists of survivors and connecting them with their families. "We found Musa's sister," she said. "She's alive. She was in hiding. He's with her now." Zara smiled. "He deserves that peace." "Do you?" Farah asked softly. Zara didn't answer, because even now, the weight on her shoulders hadn't lifted. She walked away quietly. That night the streets were full again, not with protests, but with music. People lit candles, sang old songs of hope, shared stories of courage. Children danced in circles. Men and women hugged strangers like family. And above all that joy was the unspoken truth: they had survived. Zara sat on the edge of a rooftop with Layla and Farah. "Do you think it'll last?" she asked. Layla took a sip of tea. "It can, if people remember what it cost," Farah added, "and if they protect each other." Zara looked up at the stars. Then maybe it was worth it. But in another corner of the city, a small group of former officers sat in a dark room. They watched the celebrations on a flickering screen. One of them, a man with scars across his jaw, spoke softly. "This girl, she thinks it's over." Another nodded. "We may have lost today, but we built this system for years. It won't vanish overnight." The first man lit a cigarette. "Let the people have their joy. When they let their guard down, we'll be waiting." Back on the rooftop, Zara felt something in her chest. A tightness. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was just exhaustion. Maybe it was something else. But deep inside, she knew freedom was not a moment. It was a fight. A constant one. The next morning, Zara visited her father's grave. She stood there silently, holding a single white flower. "I wish you had lived to see this," she said softly. "Or maybe it's better you didn't. I still don't understand all of it. What you knew, what you chose. But I understand now why truth matters more than loyalty." She placed the flower on the stone. "I forgive you." Behind her, a man approached slowly. It was the former general, the one who had resigned on live broadcast. His face was thinner, his uniform gone. "Just a simple man now. I was wrong." "About you," he said. Zara didn't turn. "I don't need your approval," he nodded. "I know. I just wanted to say thank you. You did what I couldn't." She finally looked at him. "I didn't do it alone." They stood in silence together. Later that day, Zara held a press conference, her final public appearance before stepping away from the spotlight. The media gathered, hoping for a new political announcement. Instead, she said, "My job is done. Now, the work belongs to you, all of you. I will not run for office. I will not take power. I will return to my family, my village, and live as a citizen. Because change must live in the hearts of the people, not just in one face." A reporter shouted, "But we need you." Zara replied, "You don't need me, you need each other." She walked off the stage, and that was the last time she was seen on national television. Years passed. The country did change slowly, not perfectly. Some promises were broken. Some mistakes were repeated. But people remembered. They remembered the files, the speeches. The girl who stood before tanks with nothing but her truth. In schools, children read about her in textbooks. In homes, mothers told their daughters, "Be brave," like Zara. And in quiet villages, where the roads were dusty and the nights long, people whispered. She defied protocol but saved a nation. One day, a young girl in a remote town stood up during a school play and wore a simple black scarf. She stood tall and proud and said the same words Zara once had. "I don't come as a leader. I come as a human being." The audience clapped. Zara, sitting quietly at the back with her husband and 2 children, wiped a tear from her eye. And for the first time in many years, she smiled without pain, because the fight wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to everyone. And that was enough.